Jack Harmon stared at the red dust that covered his boots. 5 years on this mining colony and the dirt still got everywhere. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked up at the twin suns beating down on the barren landscape. This was his punishment. Exile on the edge of human space. The small radio in his shelter crackled with the same message that played every day. Remain in designated zones. The Vex Dominion ensures your safety through compliance. Jack spat on the ground. The Vex hadn't conquered Earth for safety. They came for humans themselves, for their genetic material. The thought of his wife Elena made his hands shake. She had been taken during the first wave of the invasion. No goodbyes, just gone. He grabbed his water canteen and took a swig as he scanned the horizon. Something caught his eye. A trail of black smoke cutting across the sky. Not a scheduled transport. The object moved too fast, too erratic. What the hell? Jack muttered, reaching for his binoculars. The object crashed 3 miles from his outpost, sending up a plume of dust. Jack grabbed his rifle and emergency kit. Nobody came to this sector by accident. It took him 40 minutes to reach the crash site. The escape pod was Vex design but damaged beyond repair. The hatch had been blown open from the inside. Blood, human blood, made a trail leading away from the wreckage. Jack followed the crimson droplets until he found her. A woman lay slumped against a rock, clutching her side. Her prison uniform was soaked with blood. "Don't move," Jack said, approaching with his rifle raised. "Who are you?" The woman looked up, her eyes unfocused. "They'll track the pod. You need to hide me." "Answer my question first." "My name is Maya." She winced in pain. "I escaped from the arena station." Jack lowered his weapon. The arena was no secret, a place where the Vex forced humans to fight for entertainment. Few survived, fewer escaped. "You're a long way from anywhere," Jack said, kneeling beside her. The wound in her side was deep. "I had to find you," Maya whispered. "Commander Harmon." Jack froze. No one had called him that in years. "How do you know who I am?" "Elena, your wife." Maya's breathing became shallow. "She's alive, Jack. She's their champion." Jack's heart hammered in his chest. "Elena is alive? Where?" "The arena. They keep her fighting because..." Maya coughed, blood speckling her lips. "Because of your son." "My son?" Jack's voice cracked. "We didn't have a child. She was pregnant when they took her." Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. "They modified him while he was still growing inside her. They call him the Wolf." Jack took the chip with trembling hands. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because he's becoming too powerful for them to control." Maya grabbed Jack's arm. "The only person he responds to is Elena. When they hurt her in the arena, he goes berserk. They're afraid of what they created." She pressed a set of coordinates into his palm. "This is where they keep them. The Resistance has people inside who can help you." "I can't leave you here," Jack said, but Maya's eyes were already growing distant. "Save them," she whispered. Before the Vex realize what they've done, her hand fell away as her last breath escaped. Jack stood slowly, the data chip clutched in his fist. He returned to his shelter and inserted the chip into his terminal. The screen flickered to life. A woman stood in a circular arena, blood running down her arm. Despite the scars and the years, Jack recognized his wife immediately. The camera panned to a containment cell where a massive figure slammed against reinforced glass, howling in rage. The audio came through clearly. "Subject W7 responding to maternal distress. Increased sedation levels." The creature turned toward the camera, eyes glowing with inhuman fury. Jack stared at the face that somehow resembled his own. His son. Jack knew he couldn't do this alone. The arena station orbiting Jupiter was a fortress, guarded by the best Vex soldiers in the system. He needed a team, people with nothing to lose. 3 weeks after Maya's death, Jack stood in an abandoned warehouse on Mars Colony. 4 people sat before him, each with their own reasons to hate the Vex. "This is a suicide mission," said Hector Diaz, a stocky man with burn scars covering half his face. "I like those odds." He had been the best demolitions expert in Earth's defense force before the invasion. Lena Walsh nodded silently. The former spy had spent 2 years in a Vex labor camp before escaping. Her eyes never stayed in one place for long. The arena station has 6 security rings, Jack explained, projecting the schematics Maya had provided. We need to get through all of them to reach the lower levels where they keep the prisoners. Kyle Reeves, a pilot with a permanent sneer, leaned forward. And how exactly do we get there? Knock on the front door? We steal a transport, Jack said. The Vex move prisoners to the arena every month. We intercept one, take their ship, and blend in. The 4th member of the team, a doctor named Samantha Reed, spoke up. And once we're inside, these hybrids they're creating, they're dangerous. Your son might not even recognize you. Jack's jaw tightened. I'll deal with that when the time comes. All that matters is getting Elena and my son out. 2 days later, they ambushed a Vex prisoner transport in the asteroid belt. The fight was quick and brutal. They lost Samantha to a Vex energy weapon, but secured the ship. We have 12 hours before they notice this transport is missing, Kyle said as he piloted the stolen vessel toward Jupiter. After that, we're dead. The massive arena station came into view as they approached. A ring-shaped monstrosity larger than any human structure ever built. Thousands of lights dotted its surface like cold, unblinking eyes. Vex Transport J-17 requesting docking clearance, Lena said into the comm, her voice perfectly matching the Vex commander they had killed. After a tense moment, the response came. Clearance granted, proceed to Hangar 12. They docked without incident. Jack, Lena, Hector, and Kyle moved through the station in stolen Vex armor. The corridors were sterile and white, filled with aliens going about their business. The prisoner levels are 3 decks down, Jack whispered. We need to find a service elevator. They found one, but it required genetic authentication. Hector pulled out a vial of blood taken from one of the Vex officers. This better work, he muttered, applying the sample to the scanner. The doors opened. They descended into the bowels of the station. What they found made Jack's blood run cold. The lower level wasn't just a prison, it was a laboratory. Humans floated in tanks of green fluid, their bodies being systematically altered. Scientists moved between the tanks, taking notes. They're building an army, Lena whispered, using our own people. Jack moved to a terminal and inserted Maya's access codes. Files appeared on the screen. Project Wolf. Elena's DNA has rare properties, Jack read. Something called the Lazarus gene. It allows for extreme regeneration when combined with Vex DNA. And your son? Hector asked. Subject W7, Jack continued reading. 15 years old. 15? Kyle frowned. It's only been 5 years since the invasion. Accelerated growth, Jack said grimly. They aged him artificially. He's reached physical maturity, but his mind... He couldn't finish the sentence. An alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. They found us, Lena said, drawing her weapon. A squad of Vex security forces rounded the corner, weapons raised. Lena pushed Jack toward a side passage. Find Elena, she shouted. I'll hold them off. Jack hesitated, but Hector pulled him away. The sound of Lena's weapon firing echoed behind them as they ran. They reached a heavy security door. Through the small window, Jack could see a circular arena, and there, being led by guards, was Elena. Her face was thinner, her body covered in scars, but it was her. The facility's speakers suddenly crackled to life. Warning, containment breach in Sector 7. Subject W7 has escaped. All personnel evacuate immediately. Alarms screamed through the station. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in blood-colored shadows. Jack and Hector pressed against the wall as a squad of Vex guards ran past, their scaled skin glistening under the flashing lights. We need to move now, Jack said, checking his stolen weapon. While they're distracted. Hector nodded and placed a small explosive on the security door. Stand back. The blast was controlled but loud. The door fell inward with a heavy clang. Inside, the arena was empty except for Elena and 2 Vex guards who spun toward the noise. Jack fired twice. Both guards dropped. Elena looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Jack?" Her voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't used it for speaking in years. He ran to her, cutting the restraints from her wrists. "I'm getting you out of here." She was thinner than he remembered, her once smooth skin now marked with battle scars. A metal implant ran along her spine, but her eyes were the same. "How did you find me?" she asked as he helped her stand. "Someone named Maya escaped. She died bringing me the coordinates." Elena closed her eyes briefly. Maya. She was brave. A distant roar echoed through the station, followed by the sound of tearing metal. "That's him, isn't it?" Jack asked. "Our son." Elena nodded. "They call him W7, but I named him Adam in my mind. They've kept us apart except when they need to control him." "Control him how?" "He has a connection to me. He senses when I'm in pain." Elena's hand trembled as she touched Jack's face. "They hurt me to make him obey. When that stopped working, they kept us separated." Another crash, closer this time. Screams followed. "We need to find him," Elena said urgently. "He's never been free before. He won't understand what's happening." Hector returned from checking the corridor. "We've got company coming, lots of it." "Get to the ship," Jack told him. "Tell Kyle to be ready." "You're not coming?" Hector asked. "Not without my son." Hector hesitated, then handed Jack a small device. "Emergency beacon. Press it when you're ready for pickup." After Hector left, Jack and Elena moved through the station's winding corridors. Bodies of Vex guards littered their path. Some had been torn apart. "He's strong," Elena whispered. "Stronger than they ever expected." They turned a corner and froze. A Vex scientist lay dead on the floor, his lab coat soaked in blue blood. Standing over him was a tall figure. The wolf turned slowly. He stood 7 feet tall, his body a strange mix of human and something else. Muscles rippled under skin that seemed too tight. His face was almost human, but his jaw was stronger, his teeth sharper. His eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. "Adam," Elena said softly. The wolf tilted his head, nostrils flaring as he caught her scent. A low growl rumbled from his chest. "It's me," she continued, taking a step forward. "They've kept us apart, but I'm here now." The wolf's eyes shifted to Jack, narrowing with suspicion. "This is your father," Elena said. "He's come to help us." Before the wolf could respond, a blast hit the wall beside them. A squad of elite Vex guards had found them, led by a commander in ornate armor. "Capture the female," the commander ordered. "Kill the others." The guards opened fire. Jack pulled Elena behind a support column, but she cried out as a blast grazed her arm. The effect on the wolf was immediate. His eyes blazed with fury. His muscles seemed to expand, his fingers extending into claws. The roar that tore from his throat was primal, shaking the very walls. He launched himself at the guards, moving faster than Jack thought possible. The first guard was dead before he could fire again, his chest caved in by a single blow. The wolf tore through the squad like they were made of paper. Only the commander stood his ground, firing repeatedly. One blast hit Elena in the shoulder. She fell to her knees with a gasp of pain. The wolf turned, his rage now focused entirely on the commander. But as he moved to attack, the commander smiled and pressed a device on his wrist. Energy nets shot from the ceiling, wrapping around the wolf. He struggled, howling in pain as electricity coursed through the nets. Jack raised his weapon, but the commander was faster. A blast hit Jack in the leg, sending him crashing to the floor. The commander approached Elena, weapon aimed at her head. "You've caused enough trouble." The wolf thrashed against his bonds, his eyes fixed on his mother. Blood ran from his mouth where he'd bitten through his own lip in fury. "Are you the one who hurt her?" he growled, his first words spoken directly to Jack. His voice was deep and rough, as if unused to speaking. "No," Jack said, meeting his son's glowing eyes. "I'm here to save her, to save you both." The wolf stared at Jack, nostrils flaring as if trying to smell the truth in his words. The Vex commander laughed, a cold, clicking sound. "How touching. The family reunion no one asked for." He pressed his weapon against Elena's temple. Subject W7, stand down or watch your genetic donor die. Jack saw his chance. The commander's attention was split between Elena and the wolf. Jack reached for the fallen guard's weapon near his hand. He's your father, Adam, Elena said, her voice steady despite the blood running down her arm. The one I told you about in our dreams. The wolf's muscles tensed. The energy nets sparked as he strained against them. Impossible, the commander hissed. The psychic link was never supposed to allow communication. Jack fired. The shot hit the commander's arm, causing him to stagger back from Elena. The wolf roared and with a final surge of strength tore through the energy nets. Electricity crackled around his body as he lunged forward. The commander fired wildly. A blast hit the ceiling, bringing down chunks of metal. Another grazed the wolf's shoulder, but he didn't slow down. He grabbed the commander by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Adam, wait, Elena called out, struggling to her feet. We need him alive. The wolf hesitated, his clawed hand still wrapped around the commander's throat. He knows where the other hybrids are, Elena explained. Your brothers and sisters. Jack limped to Elena's side, supporting her weight. There's an entire army of them, he told the wolf, all being prepared for deployment to Earth. The wolf growled but loosened his grip slightly. The commander gasped for air. The station's genetic database, Jack continued. Where is it? The commander's eyes narrowed. I will tell you nothing, human. The wolf squeezed again. Tell them. Command level, the commander choked out. Central core. But you'll never reach it. I've already activated the self-destruct sequence. As if to confirm his words, a new alarm began to sound. A mechanical voice announced, Station self-destruct initiated. 15 minutes to core breach. We need to move, Jack said. He activated the emergency beacon Hector had given him. Our ride will meet us at Hangar 12. The wolf knocked the commander unconscious and dropped him to the floor. This way, he said, pointing down a corridor. I know this station. They made me memorize every level. They moved as quickly as they could with Jack supporting Elena. The wolf led them through service tunnels and maintenance shafts, avoiding the main corridors where Vex troops were scrambling to evacuate. How did you know about me? The wolf asked, as they climbed a ladder to the upper levels. In your dreams, he added, looking at Elena. I didn't know if our connection was real or if I was going mad, Elena admitted. But I had to try. They kept us apart, but they couldn't stop my mind from reaching yours. They reached Hangar 12 just as Kyle brought the stolen transport into position. Hector stood at the loading ramp, firing at pursuing Vex guards. About time, he shouted when he saw them. We've got 7 minutes before this whole place blows. Elena suddenly stumbled, falling to her knees. Her face had gone pale, her breathing shallow. What's wrong? Jack asked, kneeling beside her. The tracking toxin, she whispered. They inject all arena fighters with it. I should have told you sooner. The wolf growled, his enhanced senses detecting something wrong in his mother's blood. What is it doing to her? It's killing her, Jack realized. They must have activated it remotely when they knew she was escaping. We need to get to the command level, the wolf said. The antidote will be there. There's no time, Hector called out. 5 minutes to core breach. Get on the ship, Jack ordered. Kyle, get ready for immediate departure. What about the database? Elena asked weakly. The other hybrids? Jack looked at his son, then back at his dying wife. The database or the antidote, we can't get both. Elena grabbed the controls of the ship before anyone could stop her. I won't lose him again, she said, her eyes locked with Jack's. She fired up the engines and turned the ship toward the heart of the station. The ship crashed through the station's inner walls. Metal screamed against metal as Elena guided the damaged vessel toward the central arena. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. 3 minutes to core breach, the station's automated voice announced. The ship skidded to a halt in the middle of the arena where Elena had been forced to fight for years. Smoke filled the cabin. Kyle was slumped over his controls, a metal shard embedded in his chest. He was dead. We need to move. Jack said, pulling Elena from her seat. Her skin was burning with fever from the toxin. The wolf kicked open the damaged hatch and jumped out first, scanning for threats. The arena was deserted, everyone having fled to escape pods. The command center is one level up, the wolf said, pointing to a set of stairs. They climbed as quickly as they could, Elena leaning heavily on Jack. The station shuddered around them as systems began to fail. The command center was empty except for the Vex commander, who was frantically working at a terminal. He spun around when they entered, his scaled face contorting with surprise. "You should be dead," he hissed. The wolf moved with blinding speed, grabbing the commander by the throat again. "The antidote for my mother. Now." The commander laughed, despite the clawed hand crushing his windpipe. "There is no antidote. The toxin was designed to be permanent." Elena collapsed to her knees. "The database," she gasped. "Get the database." Jack rushed to the main terminal. 2 minutes to core breach, the station announced. "I need access codes," Jack said, staring at the locked system. The wolf squeezed harder. The commander's eyes bulged. "The codes," the wolf growled. "Alpha 79 Delta Echo," the commander choked out. Jack entered the codes. Files began downloading to a portable drive. Locations of all Vex hybrid facilities. Training protocols. Genetic sequences. Everything they would need to find the other hybrids and potentially turn them against their creators. 1 minute to core breach. The wolf threw the commander across the room. He knelt beside Elena, touching her face gently. "Mother," he said, the word strange on his tongue. Elena smiled weakly. "I always knew you were more than what they made you to be." The commander struggled to his feet, blood leaking from his mouth. "You fools, you'll never escape now." He pressed a button on his wrist device. "But I will." A hidden door slid open, revealing a small emergency escape pod. "It only fits 2, the commander said with a cruel smile. "Choose who lives, human." The wolf lunged forward and snapped the commander's neck with one quick motion. He took the commander's wrist device and tossed it to Jack. "Take her and go," the wolf said. "No," Elena whispered. "The toxin has already done its work. I can feel it." She looked up at Jack, her eyes clear despite the pain. "Take our son. Show him what it means to be human. 30 seconds to core breach." "I'm not leaving you," Jack said, gripping her hand. Elena touched the wolf's face. "I've watched you grow through glass walls. I've spoken to you only in dreams. But you are my son. You are more than their weapon." "I was made for destruction," the wolf said, his voice breaking. "You were made from love," Elena corrected him. "Now go. Both of you." 10 seconds to core breach. Jack pulled the wolf toward the escape pod. For a moment the hybrid resisted, his inhuman strength making him immovable. "Please," Elena said, "let me give my life for something that matters." The wolf looked at his mother one last time, then allowed Jack to pull him into the pod. The door sealed shut as the countdown reached 0. The pod ejected just as the station's core exploded. The shockwave sent them tumbling through space, but the small craft's shields held. Through the viewport, they watched the massive arena station break apart in a ball of fire. Neither spoke as the debris scattered across Jupiter's orbit. 1 month later, Jack stood before the assembled leaders of the human resistance. The underground base on Europa was crowded with survivors from a dozen colonies. "The data we recovered gives us the location of every Vex hybrid facility," Jack explained, "and more importantly, it proves the hybrids can be turned against their creators." The wolf stood at his side. He looked different now. His hair was cut short. He wore human clothes. He had chosen to use the name Adam. "The Vex made a mistake," Jack continued. "They thought they could control what they created. They were wrong." Adam stepped forward. The crowd murmured at his appearance. Not quite human, not quite alien. "My mother gave her life so I could find my humanity," Adam said, his voice stronger and clearer than it had been on the station. "Now I'll use what the Vex made me to destroy them." He looked out at the gathered humans, his yellow eyes gleaming with purpose. "Who stands with the wolf?" The room erupted in cheers. Jack placed his hand on his son's shoulder, feeling for the first time that they might actually have a chance to win this war.